Well, hello everyone, and welcome at episode 11 of The Opening. We are so grateful that you have joined us today. And today is, as I said, it's episode 11. We will be talking about helping children grow up loving themselves. And the opening is kind of a combination of a few words. It's to give people hope. And we say it's a place where hope is happening, and it's also being open to receiving hope. So the opening. And the opening is Fran and Marina. And my dear friend Fran has been a teacher for 33 years, working with elementary school age children in Northern Alberta. And she also is now a rapid transformational therapy practitioner with an absolute heart and passion for children, as you will witness today. I'm Marina, and I am a full-time rapid transformational therapy practitioner right now, loving what I do, doing what I love. I have a long history and background in music. I've been a performing artist pretty much all my life. I've had a lot of fun. It's doing opera. Lately, I've been doing more jazz and singing big bands. So that is who we are. And as I said, today we are talking about helping children grow up loving themselves. In February, we decided to have the theme of love all month long. And last week, we talked about finding love. But love is not just romantic. There is so much more to love than that romantic version of it. And I think one of the most important places on this planet to create love is in children, and especially for children to love themselves. So Fran, I'm handing this over to you. And I would love for you to tell us your experience in this and your passion for creating children who can love themselves.
Thank you, Marina. Helping children grow up loving themselves. You know, I really struggled with that title. Should it be helping children to learn to love themselves, helping children to be a person who can love others? I really struggled with the title because you and I both know that when our babies were born, I have two daughters and you have two sons, that when our babies were born, they loved themselves, right? They did love themselves. They took an extreme amount of our time as moms. We wrapped our lives around this tiny baby, right? I remember, my oldest daughter, when she was born, she was colicky. So, which means that she cried a lot. She had stomach issues. And so I slept very little. I spent most of the time doing this, right? Most of the time was rocking her. I devoted a lot of time to her because she needed it. So, and then as she grew out of that, she became a girl who loved to be held and touched and cuddled and hold hands. And she was giving me kisses in grade 12. When we would walk to school together, she would still give me a kiss and she would leave and I would leave. And then there's my other daughter who grew up not wanting to be kissed. And I didn't know why is my children like this? Obviously, the older one loves me more than the younger one. You know, I was all mixed up with that. And it was later that I eventually came to understand the way that they expressed love was the way that they loved being loved. And I'll get into that later. So yeah, when I say the title, Helping Children Grow Up Loving Themselves, children are born loving themselves. They have no qualms about spitting on you. They have no qualms about burping and your whole shoulder is full of whatever just came out of their stomach. They have no qualms about, pooping their pants and just being happy. Babies are like that. Babies love themselves. So I don't know about your two sons, Marina. Are your two sons very different in
Oh,
their love language?
polar opposites and in everything. And they, yes, one is more introvert, one is more extrovert. And so the way they express themselves is completely different. Both of them are quite loving though, but yeah, I hear what you say, no two people are ever the same in the way they express love. So it's
And it
interesting observation.
is interesting, same genetics, and yet,
Right.
two totally different ways of
Mhm.
expressing love. So babies are born loving themselves. Um, where's the shift? Where's the split? When do they start to feel something less than love for themselves? And I thought about this a bit. Um, where, you know, um, my mother died at the age of 77, and I was with her the last few days that she was alive. I spent a lot of time with her, and she had 12 children. My mom was a farm lady who had 12 children, and she was such a good mom. She was an at home mom. And one of the things she expressed to me on her deathbed was she felt like she hadn't been a good mom. And I was floored by that. I said, Mom, why would you ever think that? Why would you ever say that? Never, ever said anything like that before, ever. And she said, Oh, I should have spent more time with you kids when you were growing up. I should have spent less time in the field. I spent way too much time in the field helping dad with the combining while grandma raised you kids. I should have been home more with you guys. And I thought to myself, I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice. But that on her deathbed was her regret. And me as well. I know that I've talked about it to a friend of mine, a fellow teacher last night, about I really regret the time when my kids were little that I was teaching, that I wasn't with my kids. I went back to work when my oldest daughter was 3 months old, just the way it was in those days. And my younger, I went back to work when she was not quite a year old. No, she was like 7 months old, and that's just the way time. And then teaching full time is a more than a full-time job. It really is. If you're a teacher, you will understand what I mean. And there were so many times I brought my small kids to the classroom with me after hours, and I would set them up with a TV, and they would watch the movie while I'm working on my master's degree, right? Just because the internet was better there, and I could watch my kids, and I could have it was just easier for me. So I look back and I say, why didn't I spend more quality time with you? But that's just the way it was. So is that the reason that when my children would grow up having less love for themselves? I don't know. But every child, I believe, grows up feeling less than. They could be. But what can parents do about it? Well, some parents believe that they have they need to show this child exactly the way to do things, right? So when they're a certain amount of age old, we should get them toilet trained. As soon as we get them toilet trained, we get them into the clothes, the pants, the clothes, the dresses. And then it's the learning to talk. You need to learn to talk quick. Everything is about baby Einstein or everything. It's like a friend of mine who's a grandfather for the first time. His daughter and son are teaching their child sign language. This is a baby who is maybe 6 or 7 months old. And so it's interesting. It's interesting the trends that come through, right? When you were young, when I was young, there was a trend about how we should be raising our kids. Trends come and trends go, but the bottom line is love. And Well, how do you show that love for a child when the child has picked up a crayon and is writing with a crayon on the wall, or when the child is hitting their other brother or sister? And you're impatient, you are heading out the door, and your child doesn't have their dancing slippers. Where's your dancing slippers? You had them in your backpack and now you don't have them, and it starts in 1 minute. All that stuff. I get it. You get it. We raised kids. Uh, that's just life. That is life. Does that mean we're a bad parent? Absolutely not. It means we're a parent who's learning how to parent. Nobody gave us the handbook. We learned. We learned and we struggled and we learned. And eventually our children did okay, right? They did okay. And then we look back and go, I should have done that. I should have done that. Well, what can we do from the very beginning? So, one of the things that I did, and I don't know about you, Marina, but one of the things that I did, and this was because a teacher in my school told me, and I wasn't a parent yet, but I was a young wife, and she told me that one of the things that her mom said to her when she was dying was, and she took her, this lady was in her 40s or maybe 50s. The dying mother took this woman like this in her cheeks and said, I love you so much. I love you more than you'll ever know. And that stuck with me because my mom didn't do that, right? My mom did not express love that way. She just never did. It wasn't something she did. And I don't hold that against her at all. At one time, I did hold it against her, but now I'm a little bit more conscious of being judgmental. And so right from the moment my kids were born, what I did was I hold them, I would look at them, I would look them straight in the eye, right? Make that eye contact with them. Tiny little kid fighting. And I would say, I love you so much. And then I started to do this little practice. I love you more than, I love you more than the earth loves the moon. I love you more than trees love their leaves. I love you more than, and I would make something new up every day, right? I love you more, or I love you further than the moon to Jupiter. I love you further than this and that. I would make something new up every day. And this is what I would say to them first thing in the morning. So researchers have said that the most important time of the days to spend quality time with your child is the first 3 minutes in the morning when they first wake up, the first 3 minutes when they come home from school, and the last 3 minutes before bedtime. And so those first 3 minutes is when I would say this to them. And they're like groggy. These kids are groggy. They're in their bed. They're like rubbing their eyes. They don't want to get out of bed. I'm getting them up to go to school or whatever. And I would say, I love you more than, and I would list 3 things. And I would say, I love you and Morgan more than everything in this world. And I always will. And then they were awake. They were awake, and I would take them and I would take them to the bathroom and I would, get them ready for school. And I did this seriously. If my kids are listening to this, they would tell you that when they left for university, phone them. I would phone them and I would tell them that on the phone because it was such a ritual. It was a ritual for us. And I don't know if it helped my children or not, but it helped me. It helped me be grounded in that day of, yeah, these two are the most important things in my life. But as you know, I was a single parent for many, many years, right? And they really were the most important things in my life. So another thing that I did with my kids was we had a gratitude practice. And if you know one of my daughters, if you were to ask Morgan about the gratitude practice, she would laugh her head off because we pray before we eat. And so one of the things we always did was we sat down for supper together. And at supper, we would pray before we eat. And we would each say something we were grateful for. So we would have this little prayer that, you know, the traditional prayer before we ate. And then we would each say something we were grateful for. And I would say that I was grateful for something, something, something that happened during the day. And my other daughter was very good about, you know, being really authentic about something she was grateful for during the day. And then my younger daughter would look outside and she would, every day she would say she was grateful for the tree. I would say this like every day, right? Because I don't want to do this. But she would say she was grateful for the tree. So I had to put the law. You are not allowed to say you're grateful for the tree anymore. So then she would say she was grateful for the, you know, the leaves on the tree or the bird in the tree or the tree house, because she was just always like that. But gratitude is essential to helping children grow up to love themselves. There is something about being grateful, and research has shown that it changes the brain. Research, being grateful changes the brain. So research has shown that people who are grateful have better friendships. People who are grateful have a better ability to talk through their problems. They usually, people who are grateful have more physical activity. Isn't that interesting? And we both know that physical activity helps to make you a happier person. People who are more grateful have fewer aches and pains. Isn't that interesting? People who are grateful have a better sleep and a deeper sleep. Huh. They have a better resilience to trauma. They have improved self-esteem. Bingo, they have improved self-esteem. Why? Why do people who are grateful have improved self-esteem? Where is the correlation there? I love to look at correlation, and I love to look at science. What do you think, Marina? Why would people who are grateful have improved self-esteem?
To me, gratitude is all about creating energy. It's a positive energy, and when you focus on what you can be grateful for, you shift your focus from things that you would normally beat yourself up upon. So I think if you are struggling with low self-esteem, but instead you start to say, okay, I'm not going to focus on that, but I'm going to focus on what I'm grateful for, it does shift the focus away from that. That's my opinion, friend.
Bingo, you got it again.
Mhm.
Because when we can shift our focus off ourselves and we can shift our focus onto, yeah, there's a mountain of snow outside. However, what a beautiful day. It's just a beautiful, bright day. Suddenly, I'm not thinking about this mountain of snow. I'm thinking about the sunshine on the snow, the patterns on the snow, the shadows on the snow, how beautiful it would be to paint that snow. And research has shown that there's actually a dopamine hit. When we are grateful for something, there's a dopamine hit. Dopamine is your feel-good hormone, right? So the more we can be grateful, the more natural dopamine is being created in our body, the happiness hormone, which raises our self-esteem. Gratitude also, just like you said, shifts the focus. So if we can look, if we're on a team, say we're a child on a team, hockey is a big thing here where I live, but also is after school sports, basketball, volleyball, badminton, all of those kinds of things. If we can shift our focus rather than he just missed the shot, or why isn't he in a certain position? He should be over there, all that kind of stuff. The negative, shift your focus onto the gratefulness part, the gratitude part of, holy cow, he just about made that shot, or wow, he was almost there in time to get that pass. That takes the focus off the negative and puts it on the positive. And when you can put the focus on the positive, that is helping you to be happier, which builds your self-esteem. When you have more gratitude, you're less jealous. So I am looking at my whatever whatever gift I got from my parent for Christmas. I'm a child in a classroom. Kids are talking about what they got for Christmas. That's what they do. And then so and so is saying, yeah, they got like 35 presents. And then there's the other child who didn't. And then this one child got this extremely expensive present and the other child didn't. It's hard to have gratitude, right? However, what I do is I make a point of having children show gratitude every day. And as soon as they come into the classroom, they write what they're grateful for. Sometimes kids have a very hard time with it. And it's sad because some of these kids that have a really hard time with writing about what they're grateful for, I know that they have good families. I know that they do. And yet they don't know how to show gratitude. And there's a strong correlation between an inability in the classroom to write down what they're grateful for and a child who's a sad child who feels the world is against them.
Right.
I had no idea until I started this gratitude practice in the classroom at the beginning when we came back after the pandemic, right? Because there was just so much negativity in the world, right? So I started this gratitude practice. It was interesting data, I always say. Yeah. So when we can take the focus off ourselves and stop saying, poor me, because I didn't get the whatever that I wanted, and instead take the focus and shift it to say, look what I did get. Children are happier. They're less jealous, which builds self-esteem because more people want to be with you if you're a kinder, happier person. It's all related. So we talked about the first 3 minutes of the morning being so important. How do we talk to kids when they come home from school? We haven't seen them all day. We've gone to our work or we've done our thing, and kids are coming back and they're dropping their book bag and their backpack and their lunch kit. And what's usually, Marina, the first thing we say?
For me, it was always, how was your day?
How was your day?
And
Good.
you talked about difference between children, because the one child would always elaborate and tell me everything, and the other one would just say, good. And I would say, did anything exciting happen today? No. So
right. Open end, like it kind of a closed ended question, right? First one is how was your day? It can be good or bad. Pretty closed end question. What I used to say to my kids, they would come to my classroom and drop their stuff off and they would start their homework right away. I would say, well, what did you do in school today? And they would talk about it. But since then, I have learned that, there's a better way of handling it than saying, what did you learn in school today? The better way of handling it is to say, how did you learn today in school? How? And then something to think about. How did I learn? Okay, so Mrs. Cadrone, we had this thing. It was kind of goofy, but kind of fun. You know how kids are. They always want to have the cool factor going on. Yeah, we were learning this story and Mrs. Cadrone made us act it out. And that was kind of fun, because they don't, most of the time, the cool factor comes in and they don't want anything to be too fun. They don't want to say anything is too fun because being cool is never really too fun unless in school, unless it's, something really odd. But yeah, how did you learn today? This is what we did. I studied with so-and-so, where I got to have some time spent together with my friend or whatever. We were going over notes, blah, blah, blah. How did you learn is really an important factor. And when a parent can ask, how did you learn today? You get a better insight into what your child is really thinking. And maybe sometimes some things tumble out in the process. Yeah, I wanted to work with my friend so-and-so, but the other girl took her first. You know how that works, right? The triangles in the classroom. And teachers do their best of trying to regulate the triangle in the classroom, and sometimes it's impossible. But there's lots of times this triangle, it happens where the two girls are fighting over the friendship of the third girl, or there's people that are disincluding others, and it's a difficult thing for teachers always to try to get a handle on. So why do kids do this? Yeah, the friendships can be difficult in school, like especially when certain children become too clingy. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, about why do children become so clingy in their friendships that they can't allow other friends in. And teachers spend a lot of time trying to build that into children, but lots of that needs to come from home from the very beginning. And so the last and most important time is the 3 minutes before bedtime. Um, what kind of, did you have a ritual that did with your kids at bedtime?
Yes, I used to read to them when they were quite younger. And interesting, my younger son, when he became older, um, those preteen years, we spent a lot of time like sitting in my bed. My older son was always off doing his own thing. We would sit in my bed and watch sitcoms and just laugh for a long time before I would send him off to bed. But when they were younger, I used to read to them a lot.
Hmm. I did too. I read to them a lot. I read to them a lot at bedtime. And the kids who really love being read to, there's a certain way they love, there's a reason that they love that. I had one daughter that could listen to me for hours when I read to them. And the other one, she would be interested for a while and then she would fall asleep right away. But the other one loved that ritual of being read to at bedtime, and the ritual of just saying prayers together and tucking them in and, making them nice and cozy and tight and giving them kisses on the cheeks and all that kind of stuff. They love those rituals. It's not only I loved it too, but they loved it because it was, I always thought of it as putting this little seed into the ground and covering it up and watering them at nighttime so that they could bloom the next day, right? But there is science to it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the science now. So one of the people that I've been following quite a bit is a lady whose name is Anna Lemke, and I might have mentioned her before, and she's an expert on dopamine and how certain things in our society, especially in the last couple of years, are very detrimental, especially to children. And one of the things she mentions is screen time being extremely detrimental. And I know there's a lot of parents that don't want to hear this, but I see it in the classroom as well. I see screen addictions in the classroom, which is one of the reasons that I do not allow personal devices in the classroom, whether it's recess, an inside recess because it's a cold weather day or for whatever reason. There's no personal devices allowed on the playground, no personal devices. The only devices that the children in my class are allowed to use are the Chromebooks if they have a specific assignment on the Chromebook. So the dopamine experts say that screen time is a hit of dopamine. It's a hit of dopamine. And whether it's a like on Facebook because someone liked your whatever it is, or it's the TikTok rage where young kids are taking the video of themselves with their friends or whatever is happening in the background and posting it on TikTok and then getting, the likes. I'm not really sure about how TikTok works, but I think it's a bit the same way as social media. Another big one is Instagram and Snapchat and the rest of that. The experts say it is not a good idea for a child to have a personal device before the age of 12. And then after that, limit it because of the addiction involved. It is so easy for a child to get addicted to the screen. And I know this is true because a very good friend of mine adopted two children from the time they were small. They were fostered first, She fostered them and then she adopted them. And these two cannot have devices. They cannot, because they were so addicted as young babies. They were addicted to it. And now they are elementary age children, and even the Chromebook for an assignment, they get angry when it's time to put that away. Angry when it's time to go outside for recess. They don't want to put the Chromebook away. So Anna Lemke says that the addiction to the screen time as a young person, as a young child, will lead to more addictions in youth, more addictions, which could be the whatever, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, monster drinks, those kinds of things. So screen time is a bad one. So I'm going to talk to you. The last thing about is love languages. Love languages. Why were our children so different? Is because they had a different love language. So I don't know. Do you know anything about love languages, Marina?
I know there's a book that I've read many, many years ago about love languages. That's pretty much what don't ask me detail.
Okay, so as an adult, I know that my love language is quality time and acts of service and quality time. My daughters, their love languages were physical touch and words of affirmation and some acts of service. So let's look at a child, and how can we tell by looking at a child what their love language is? So one of your children was very huggy. One of my children was very huggy, loved to hug, loved to hold hands, loved to kiss, loved to come and sit on my lap, that kind of stuff. Her love language was physical touch. So she felt loved, being held. And that's the one who was colicky when she was little. Being held, being rocked, being gently, all of that physical touch, she loved it. And that's still her love language to this day. And she's, in her late 20s. The other daughter loved acts of service. So if I were to go behind her and pick up every toy that she had dropped and put it away for her, she would have thought that was just the most loving thing I could have done for her. This girl had the bedroom with the clothes all over the floor, always. And so I got to the point was like, I can't stand it anymore. I got to clean up. I got to tidy this room because it's driving me crazy. Well, that girl, acts of service girl, when she would see that her room was tidy, she was so grateful. And me, of course, I didn't do it because I was being kind. I did it because I couldn't stand it anymore. But in her eyes, I loved her so much because I had cleaned up her room for her. Quality time. There's those kids that want you to spend that time with them. Whatever it is, please come and sing with me. Please come and dance with me. Please come to my football game. Please come and watch me do whatever. Those are the kids that love quality time the best, spending time. And then there's the kids, when you look in their room, they've got every kind of rock that they picked up everywhere. They've got a rock, like 30 rocks that they just picked up off the street, and they've got that little collection of rocks. And then they've got the little collection of feathers. They got that little collection of something that you thought that they were supposed to throw away, but they never did. And they've got the collections all over the place. Those kids love gifts. They love gifts. So when you go somewhere and you bring them back a gift, they just think that's just the love. And others not so much. Like at the end, it's like, where's that such and such that I brought you? I don't know. Really? And then there's the kids that will keep it forever. Those are the ones who love gifts. And the last one is very important. Words of affirmation. The words that we use to say, I love you no matter what. The words of affirmation, I'm so proud of you. And how we say it, right? Am I proud of you because of you just won a red ribbon? We have to be so careful about the words we use to our children. It's not about the goal, it's about the process. So when I say to my child, I am so proud of you that you got an A on the test, that child will grow up believing my mom won't love me unless I get an A on the test. Or I'm so proud of you, you made the team and you're like the most valuable player. Well, my mom's not going to love me unless I'm the most valuable player. That's what kids grow up thinking. And so instead of praising the the final product, praise the process. I'm so proud of the way you went in there and worked so hard. I'm so proud of the way you really focused and you were able to get this much of your schoolwork done in such a small amount of time. You were really focused. Good job. Or I'm so proud of you. All of these things you did were spot on. This, how you wrote this, I just felt when you wrote this down, I could really feel that character, not about getting finished or about getting an A or getting most valuable player. That's not the way to praise a child. Praise a child about the effort that they put into it. Praise a child about how kind they are, how compassionate about how loving, how caring, how all of those skills, how honest they are. Yeah, you spilt the milk, but you told me. I'm so grateful that you told me about it instead of saying, no, it wasn't me. The honesty is super important. So, yeah, how we raise our children is important, but we should never beat ourselves up about it because, like I said before, no one taught us how to be a parent except the parents that we had. And sometimes maybe it could have been done a different way.
Absolutely. Fran, in the work we do, 99% of the time in my experience, when an adult present us with an issue today, whether it is I don't have purpose, I'm depressed, I have weight issues. When we start our sessions with them, the first thing that comes out is that subconscious messaging that formed during childhood. And knowing this have changed me. Now my children are all grown up. But I read something yesterday that really, really touched me deeply. And it's from a colleague. It's a man who has a young child, and he was portraying this experience about how he now talks to his daughter and how he changed all his languages towards his daughter to be enabling, to be never criticizing, especially when it comes to being creative. She would say, for example, I want to dance, and he would say, not now. He said he stopped saying no, and he just started to see her change. And I was listening to you and I was taking some notes as you were talking. And some of the things that came to my mind is that there is no device on this planet that you can put in a child's hands that will substitute their need for your undivided attention. And it doesn't have to be all day long. I was a single mom. You were a single mom. We had to work. It's just life. It's reality. But when we looked into our eyes, when you touch your children's faces like that, no device on this planet can substitute for that. When you gave them that undivided attention, and then to me, it's whatever, however we talk to children, whether it is as a parent, as a teacher, as a grandparent, or just a friend, can you say things to them that will get stuck in their subconscious mind that will contribute to a good self-esteem? So how
Mhm.
many times do we in society just say no to children? Don't do that. Don't touch that. And, of course, in South Africa, the electrical plugs had these big round holes and a child could put their fingers right into it. And so there's always that. Like, so yes, I did tell my children no, and eventually got something to put in there so that I don't access it. Because as a child, I got actually an electrical shock from a few times from don't put your finger in there. Oh well, I'm going to do it anyway. So you want to protect. So in that case, it's different. But um, we substitute so many times these days attention with devices, the TV, um, the iPad, like go play a game here.
I
And
know.
it's, you have to wonder what is the inner story that child will tell themselves? Will they be a child that years down the road would end up in our chair?
Mhm.
Because they feel that they never got enough praise and enough attention. So to
Mhm.
me, it's all about the praise that we give children. So we are privileged that in RTT, we do help them restore that praise and we do teach them to give that praise to themselves. So I want to ask you, as a teacher, how do you speak to your school children, your students?
It's so interesting. Um, the more I've learned in RTT, the better teacher I've become. The better parent I've become, even though my children are older, uh, to really listen to to just listen about what is going on, to give them time to express it is super important. Um, so if, for example, I've got a child who doesn't want to go out for recess, let's okay, that's okay. Let's talk about it. And sometimes they just have to. If I'm on supervision, you just have to go out. If you don't want to go outside for recess, let's okay, stay in. And then they'll be something, they wanted to finish their work or whatever, but usually there's an underlying clause. And so just to sit and listen, just to chat, just to chat a little bit, and usually stuff comes out, right? The time to sit and listen and give undivided attention is paramount. Uh, Also, the you can tell a child in such a way that it's time to get to work, but you can say it in such a way that it doesn't become it's not a command. Instead, it's more of a, um, hey, hun, uh, almost done, that kind of thing. Or, hey, bud, you just, you lighten it up. It's not going to be the end of the world if they don't finish. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't get a passing mark. It's not the end of the world, but I want you to do your best. I want you to do your best. And I often keep track, and they keep track of how much better they were today than yesterday. So if you were able to write 15 words yesterday, let's make it 16 today. Yay! You had an improvement. That's all I care about. That's what I care about. I care about you improving. And I think schools are much better at that now than we were in the past. In the past, it was all about A, B, C, D, whatever. Now it's about the improvement and the process rather than the final product. One important thing that I do in school is to focus on the quality of the child, like the qualities within the child, those little things that they are. So if the girl is a really good artist, or if they're really good in sports or whatever, um, rather than saying, my God, you're a good artist, because then the girl beside will be like, she doesn't think I'm a good artist. Right? That comparison thing. Rather than saying that, I'll say, oh, I love the way you put these two colors together. When you put that color with that color, that one really makes that color bump out. So it's a different, it's just a, it can be, or I love the way that you did the trees in this way, like when you do the trees that way, that's cool. But I also love how you put the squirrel in the tree over here. That's so fun. It's so fun to, you just focus on a positive for everybody, and then everybody feels, hey, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm okay. I might not be blah, 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 but I'm okay. And that's good enough. And then they're able to say, oh, wow, to somebody else, right? To somebody else, they can say, oh, that's a nice color there. Or, wow, look at that big word you used when you were writing that story. Maybe I can use more big words. Like it's it's a game of dominoes, right? If I can teach kids how to praise each other, that's a goal for me.
I'm just thinking on my feet here, and it's Don Miguel Ruiz in the Four Agreement that says, always do your best. And your best is going to differ from moment to moment, depending on the circumstances. And I was just thinking while you were talking, you know, as I think one of the traps a lot of parents sometimes fall into is you want your child to be the best. But what about saying just do your best? That's all. And then praise that. Praise the best that they did. And then at the end of the day, my husband always say, well, children set the bar for themselves. Absolutely. So it stays within an expectation, but always do the best. Just do your best. Your best is good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you question, it's like, you know, parents know, teachers know. You just say, is that your best?
Exactly.
Is that your best? And then they're very honest. Kids are very honest. Well, you know, and then they'll know, right? Is that your best? Is that your best work? Yeah.
Well, what an absolute privilege for you, Fran, to be in that situation where you can be that voice of positivity in so many children's lives today. And I think over the last 33 years, I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of your old students that can be grateful to you for being that voice and your passion for children. So if anybody wants to reach out to Fran about working with children specifically, her email is francadrone1@gmail.com, or she can be reached through here on private message as well. So Fran, any last tidbits you wanted to share?
I guess what I would say to the parents out there, we're all doing our best. No parent ever sets out to harm their child, ever. And so believe in yourself as well. Believe in yourself. Every child is different. Just like Marina and I are telling you, every child is different, and nobody gave us a handbook. We learned from examples, and I am grateful to both my parents. So grateful to them. They did the best they could raising me and my siblings, and I thank the God for them too. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Fran. So next week, we are continuing the conversation about love, and we have a special guest. Eleni is a colleague. I need to read something to you. And she is a relationship coach. And she specializes in helping single women attract a high-value man. And so in her personal story, it was a lot about overcoming shyness and unhealthy past relationships. So she is amazing. She's such a beautiful soul. And I'm very, very excited to introduce her. And then the following week, it will be question and answer week. So we will be announcing a little bit more about that as we go. So Fran, thank you again for a wonderful talk today, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Oh, my pleasure.